Happy Friday, Advantage members. It's April 21st. Um, so it's 9:15 my time, and equity markets are about to open in about 15 minutes or so. One thing that's kind of been clear on BTC is sort of the overwhelming sell pressure that we've seen since this 30K top. If y'all remember in this area right here, right, I told y'all that in this range right here, until you break down or break up from this range, BTC is going to be a mess. And then, of course, altcoins themselves are going to follow everything that BTC is going to do. Now, what's interesting is, it's been a pretty decent, I would say, stable sell down of Bitcoin. And it's been a relatively stable sell down of things like Solana, things like Atom or ETH or AVAX. And some have kind of pretty close to basically wiping out almost all the gains of April, right? So if you actually look at the monthly of April, right, for a lot of them, they're pretty flat on the month. Here you can see Atom. Here you can see Solana looks a little bit better. ETH a little bit better, right? But all in all, what this shows me is that the market has clearly come into an area of pretty sort of formidable resistance. Okay. And formidable as well as a technical, juncture where you may now have to start thinking, all right, so what just happened and how do I sort of how do I, what do I make of this? Right. So let's go back to the weekly chart. And specifically, like, let's do sort of weekly on BTC, right? BTC weekly. This has been probably one of the more horrendous weeklies, a little bit after this weekly right here, because this weekly was terrible looking when it was happening, but it actually closed up very positively, right? But this weekly is actually a bearish engulfing of this pretty strong weekly that broke out of this consolidation structure. So this, in fact, actually holds more weight. I know there's 2 more days left to close out this weekly, but nonetheless, it's not a good look. Okay. And so what this tells me is, on a BTC basis, where the next area of support is possibly, the sweep of all this crap right here. Okay. All that, which is around 26K. It may go a little bit deeper. Like, see this curved trend line that I have? It may go deeper towards, I don't know, 25 and a half. What else is around 25 and a half? We have a 3-day structured trend line. This one going back to June 2022, touching multiple times here, October 2022, November 2022, January 2023, excess break back down in February. And so the retouch right here could be around 25.5, right? And then, like I said before, on a weekly basis and SR level, we have previous resistance right there, previous resistance right there, 25.2K or 25.3 if you want to be like kind of, very close. That's around, where the weekly may tag. So this 25 and a half to 26K, okay, that little $500 pocket is where you may see price come back into if shit really hits the fan. It is not necessary for shit to hit the fan, though, because again, we've come back to the previous area of consolidation right here that we just tagged, that red line, which is $27,800, right? Let me make this a different color for you so you can visually see what I'm talking about. Okay. Let's make that yellow, right? 27.8, pretty important level that held for almost 2 weeks right here. This little tightening consolidation wedge before the breakout, come back and retap. That's also a pretty decent area. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this to you is I don't know what the market is going to do in terms of, a further breakdown, or this is it, right? That all kind of depends on positioning and what kind of buy side support we get, or how much sell pressure has been taking place here. Per volume analysis, and if you start doing indicator analysis, excuse me, we're at a pretty decent point where, yeah, volume is starting to fade down. Okay. But that means that volume fading down in these three candles. So again, volume fading down, indicators like our Shepherd indicator and a MACD, as well as RSI coming off the high, is giving us, a bit of, hey, we're coming out of an oversold condition, resetting back. These indicators are, let's just say, somewhat reset at neutral levels, but they've not come down to reset at further, levels where you see a little bit more panic in the sellers, or the market is, locally oversold. The three indicators right here are not stating that at all. But again, in an uptrend, you actually may not get deeper oversold levels per RSI or MACD where the market pulls down a lot. And so the way I relate this back to is, if you want to talk about that 2019 run up that we had, right? If y'all look at that back here, you had some, let me zoom in a little bit closer so you guys can see. Okay. When we had these pullbacks like that one, these pullbacks that we had in 2019, when we had bottomed here in 3,000 and we ran it all the way to 13, right? You got some pretty decent pullbacks where the MACD flipped bearish, pulls back to like, some reasonable level. Even the RSI pulls back to like the 50, or the, over here pulled back to like the 47 level. Again, in terms of the RSI, which is this indicator right here, generally like 45, 50, that's the neutral point. Okay, neutral point is generally where a decent uptrend comes back to, and then it bounces up. All right, so you kind of see multiple times, once we bottomed here in 3,000, we never really broke back down like inside 45, 47 levels of the RSI. Okay, so like that. Okay, so sort of, moving this back to where we are. Okay, well, guess where we are now? We're almost exactly at that level, right? So it is not necessary for us to really break momentum down much further. So as I stated, it is possible that we have one more sweep down here, but it is not necessary, right? Even the, volume ticking down, consolidation. Now, if we do this, okay, let's just say this is a rougher, but a quicker consolidation / pullback. Then we do something like this, sharp wick, come back up. I could totally see that. This could scare the shit out of people, where we start developing a head and shoulders till the beginning of May, but then it doesn't resolve. Like, it doesn't resolve down, but rather it just puts in a wick that quickly just gets pulled back up. Now, how does that translate into alts? I think now, kind of looking at Ethereum real quick, ETH is also coming into a pretty substantial sort of SR level, which is this 1940, 1950 level, right? Dating back to February 2021, June, July 2021, resistance right here in August 2022. We're actually above that level. You can make the argument that, well, I think this was a blowout of shorts and now we're going to come back down. Yeah, that's a fair argument, but that remains to be seen. Until then, you kind of got to assume that maybe this also flips as support, this, level right here. Okay. Again, let me make this a yellow color so you can see how it's a weekly level that dates back 2+ years. See that? So that's the importance of that level, right? As well as sitting above atop this big consolidation triangle wedge. So all in all, you're not doing anything necessarily that bearish, even though on a 4-hour basis, the market looks like shit, right? On a 4-hour basis, maybe we pull back in deeper. Maybe we go back to 1850, which is kind of this key SR level that we've tapped into multiple times, and then we push up. Maybe we really shit the bed and we do this and then reclaim and then push up. I don't know. I'm giving you guys levels to watch out for, so you're prepared and you don't start, betting the farm with leverage and, just getting blown up just in case the market drops another 5-6%. Because look, even if it drops to 1850, that's a 3% drop. This little pocket right here is about a 5 to 7% drop where this area could get cleaned up, right? Sometimes what happens is in markets is you leave behind like vacuum areas where it wasn't properly filled back in. And so because a lot of price action didn't take place here, so you can even set up the VPVR. Where's the VPVR? All right, you could just do this. Let's see. There should not be a whole lot of volume here. Okay. Yeah, you can kind of see it, right? Okay, hang on. Let's put on the VPVR. I'm pretty sure I'm right. What is happening here? Volume profile. That should be it. Yeah, see the shelf right here? Oh. I don't know how to measure it by, okay. Point is, then this area, yes, there's a high concentration of volume, but after this event up here, this was left down, okay? Anyway, I'm not gonna stress too much time on that, and just because my indicators are kind of showing me that they're taking into account all this. So they're showing me actually a high volume shelf here. But the reality is that after this move happened from here to here, you didn't really fill back in any of this. Okay, so that in itself kind of creates a messy situation where markets can do crap like that and then push back up. All right, anyway, now going back to Solana, one of my, one of my higher conviction trades. Now, same thing with Solana, okay? Going back to the weekly, right? Pretty strong weekly out, pretty strong reversal on the weekly, pull back down, right? Now, you can make the argument that, hey, on a weekly basis, we have now retested the consolidation that we just broke out from. That's it. Maybe we don't need to go any deeper, right? Maybe that's it, okay? So where does that put us? Okay, well, on a 4-hour basis, though things look ugly from here, ideally what you want to see is probably a break and a hold and a close above that level, because that's a multi-hour consolidation. You want to see price get above that level, right? And leave this structure behind. Then you could say, okay, we've probably put in that local bottom. Until that happens, all this is still ripe for taking with a bigger drop towards $21, maybe $20 flat. Okay, and that then takes us to this trend line consolidation. And so that could, be the next obvious area where then market does something like that. And then, beginning of May or whatever, then it pushes on up. All right. Other things, INJ, I was just, sort of noting earlier that just because INJ has run up so much doesn't mean you have to start fading it, right? It's still in a pretty strong uptrend. We talked about INJ numerous times, all the way up from $2, 4.5, 5.5, 6.5, and now it's at 7.75, and it went all the way up to 10. right? So point is, it's given multiples of returns. Now, I don't know. I don't know if the risk profile is that good for INJ anymore in terms of getting long. You know, it's already been up like 5 or 6x since we mentioned it. So maybe a deeper pullback is due. Maybe if you still have conviction, I don't know, this curve trend that you see, we're still maintaining it. This could be a pretty decent buying opportunity, right? So again, not investment advice, but just letting you know, there's different opportunities in the market right now, and you don't need to start fading the market right away just because you think we've already had a drop and we have to have another drop. All right. Other than that, I mean, honestly, like usually what I like to see is, who is kind of ripping up out of the market lows. And to be honest, I've not really seen anything substantial. Like pretty much everything is still red or barely green. And that's not really something to start betting on. Like DSO is, decentralized social, but still it's like really nothing that special. Y'all should pay attention to new projects like this. All right, we've talked about DSO before. What else? ID, I've talked about ID before, right? This is called Space ID. I mentioned it in altcoin analysis. ARB, of course, has a pretty substantial pullback down. Now it's retesting that area, pretty close to retesting it as support. INJ already talked about optimism. Again, a whole lot of chop happening here. Who knows? Maybe he's building a base around 225s and then it explodes higher. Yeah. Ajax, Ocean, these are all the AI protocols, right? Still doing a whole lot of consolidation chop, nothing special. So I'm waiting on the asset or few assets to show me that, that they're going to break out of this downtrend and that they're going to be the leaders, for the next, few days or a few weeks. I've not seen that. So that means the market is still in consolidation mode. It's still in like, think mode of what happens next. And I believe that probably comes from what happens in equities, right? You can kind of see equities are just opening up here. There's a whole lot of consolidation also going on here in the S&P 500. Personally, I actually think that we're going to tag 4180 all the way up to maybe 4300. But that's just based on what I see in the market right now. This like grinding, drifting higher is not really an area that I like to fade. And that kind of applies to crypto too, right? Like, to me, doesn't really look like BTC has topped per se. I mean, obviously I could be wrong, but point is like, I think it's just too early to bet against the larger uptrend so far. All right. Anyway, that's pretty much it. I'm posting a lot about AI stuff on my feed. So if you want to follow anything AI related, right, tag me in the tweet, post it here. So AI bots, right? Like this discussion right here, I follow a lot of really interesting stuff. And if you have any questions, I've been working and using ChatGPT quite a bit. I set up Auto GPT on my computer. It's been pretty helpful, just experimenting and stuff. And that is it. All right. Thanks, everybody. Cheers.